the reason that these kinds of projects, these stylized kinds of projects, have been relatively successful, we do a lot of this kind of stuff, is if you kind of think of the comparison, and I'll try and unpack the comparison so it makes sense. Like, how do we measure this? Number one, and why do we measure it in this way? And thirdly, like, what benefit is like this kind of workflow?
That we are good to go.
All right. Awesome. So let's get started, everyone. So I do see a few familiar people in the chat right now. And many of you who are watching this probably know us already. And a lot of you are also pretty new. So I see a lot of new people as well. So for those who are tuning in for the first time, let me quickly introduce ourselves. So I'm Sachin. I'm an artist and a creative tech entrepreneur. Previously, I was a senior technical lead at Procter & Gamble. And Diana, my co-founder, is an educator and a creative coach. So together, we are building AI Lemon Academy, where we provide expert-led workshops and trainings to help creative leaders, creative entrepreneurs, and designers to unlock the full potential of AI in their creative process. So we know that the future is definitely human and AI collaboration. And we are here to help you make that transformation. And it's not just about helping you like build this particular AI mastery, but more importantly, it's to help you stay ahead in this ever-changing creative AI landscape, right? Because things are changing so fast and you always want to one step ahead of it. So we want to see you all to become like thought leaders and lead this change along with us. And that's why we have been doing these workshops and training programs. So just in the last year, we have helped like 5,000 plus creative professionals upskill. We have provided almost 30 plus workshops, several training programs, and 6 boot camps. Our 7th boot camp is just launched and it's starting on May 13th. So we have received some wonderful testimonials for which we are super grateful, as this helps us improve and bring you the best as well. All right, so as part of our mission, one of our main goal is to inspire you all and to show you the possibilities of the upcoming AI tech and to use it as a powerful tool. And this means working in collaboration with AI to enhance your capabilities rather than to just, like a lot of us things replacing human creativity. For example, we have been seeing this. There's a lot of fear around this that's going to replace human creativity, and there's a lot of backlash as well. But we see a whole different story from our side, and that's what we want to talk to you about. And one way we do that is to bring the industry experts who have been practicing that craft for almost 10 plus, 20 plus years, and are also recently adopting to the new tech and leveraging AI in their everyday creative work, right? So every month we organize free workshops to help creative professionals like you to adopt in this AI age. And today we have with us Phillip Maggs, and we have been in touch with Phillip for several months now, following some great progress that he has made in leveraging AI at scale with his creative team at Superside. And he has a super neat title, which is Generative AI Lead at Superside. I absolutely love that title. And yeah, Phillip, welcome. So thanks for taking the time to be over here, right? I would let you go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody over here.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me. And yeah, on the snazzy job title, fairly fresh. Still kind of figuring out what it means. On the over a decade of experience, making myself feel quite old now. Keep forgetting how long I've been doing working in the industry. And on having experience with generative AI, within the bubble of the company that I work for, and with the customers I work with, and the amazing team that I get to support and work with, I still feel very much like a student. Like sometimes we may be a month or two ahead of the pack. Sometimes we might be a day or two behind. nothing feels comfortable at the moment. I can tell you that. So if anyone else is in the same boat, I can certainly empathize with it. The overload of information, the kind of imposter syndrome around, what am I doing? What's working? What I can say is most of the signals I hear and feel, and a lot of that comes from customers, feels like everything's trending in the right direction. Right. But it's not necessarily a simple or easy ride at the moment, but it's definitely a fun one, and I'm very much enjoying it.
Right, exactly. And there are a lot of interesting dynamics here right now, especially from multiple stakeholders coming in right now. Like you said, even the clients, the customers, because there is knowledge out there, everybody is up to date. Everybody sees these examples right there on social media. So they at least see these examples that they come across, what can be used, and they come up with, hey, can we use this for this particular use case? Can we use it for this particular project? Is this when you mentioned customers come up with specific requirements? What did you really mean by it? Is there and how do you manage that particular discussion and bring up that level of education with clients?
Sure, I will take one step back from that question, which is the kind of thesis, and I'll try and answer the question with it, which is the thesis that I've really tried to stick to, and mainly the kind of drive and mindset that I've tried to put within the business and the team is, number one, we just don't know, right? And we don't know, and we can't be sure.
Yeah.
And the way to get more sure is to do more things and to practice, and it's kind of like that. Parable of, if you take, and you will know this because you upskill a lot of people. If you take a class of people and you ask them over 30 days to make one perfect thing, or if you ask that class every day to make one thing, by the end of it, the people that you ask to do something new every day will have learned more skills, and they have made more things, and those things most likely will be better. So the way that we've applied that in the business is essentially to accept nearly every customer request we have. Mm-hmm. We've done that in a relatively, in a brute force way, with a few caveats, to the point of we will protect our customers and we will make sure we're doing things above board. But the brute force way is, we're relatively lucky at Superside because we've got a massive creative team that go across every single design and creative discipline. So there is literally nothing under the virtual roof from which we kind of sit under that we can't make by hand. Yeah. My background, 3D, creative technology, augmented reality, real-time game engines, and just creative tech in general. But and my team have really kind of crazily diverse skill sets. So the way to kind of we've been fortunate that customer will come in with an outcome they want to have, which could be, we need a rebrand done, or we need some marketing material, we need a new campaign made. They rarely, and they're starting to now, but they've rarely historically saying, I want this to be made with AI. But what we just put in front of them was a notion of would you be open to us doing this with AI? And the customers that were open to it, that was this first level of intent that we captured. And in the early days, and by the early days, I mean a year ago, we then just tried, right? We set ourselves a task to try to do the customer work within the same time frame, with a net new way of doing it. Because, say, if you're talking just in the realms of images, and images, I guess, are the thing that I guess maybe people here might be more interested in. But if you're talking in the realms of visual design, it's not one thing. Yeah. It's 100,000 things. There's so many nuances to it. So something that is really present and easy to do, say, for example, if Nike came to us and said, I want to have Jordans made in the style of Iron Man, super easy. That's why you see it everywhere on Instagram, because it's super easy to do, because it's super present in the model. Yeah. If B2B SaaS insurance company N comes in and says, I want you to replicate my character style. That is this kind of spot illustration that plays a really core role in their communication on their website. And you try and do it and you're like, okay, I can't even get anywhere near it with the just generic workflows. So then that kind of forces you to go to a level deeper. So kind of recap on that is we don't try and hypothesize too much as to what people are going to ask us for. What we try and do is like wait for the intent. Aim to do a volume of that work, as in, so unless we've done 10 of them, like I don't really count it as anything necessarily interesting enough to like shout about yet. But if we start to do a reasonable volume of something, we're like, okay, we can see some trend here. It's like significant enough to understand why it would work and what would work. And then we've just done that repeatedly, week after week, month after month. And so we kind of built up this corpus of knowledge that we can then feel relatively confident in. Until Mid-Journey, Adobe, Stable Diffusion drop a new thing, and we're like, okay, we can just do it in that way now. And that happens like all the time as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Wonderful. And the first thing you said is, yes, you're getting that intent from the client to see if you can explore with AI. And by now, I think you have made, and you recently told me that you have made like 500 AI projects, and you have been able to see those tangible improvements, right? Because I think a lot of us have been seeing a ton of things on social media, but there is not enough data that we have seen that there is real value factor behind it. And this is what you have demonstrated. So I just wanted to present that particular slide. And I absolutely love that. I think I read this particular article around 4 months ago, where I was like really looking for, hey, within the creative industry, has there been a data point that I can look at and say, hey, here, there is a real benefit. And in this particular example of these dog illustrations, a volume of dog illustrations that you made for a specific brand, you saved around 90% time for the client, right? And also a ton of cost around that. And that's a wonderful example. I just wanted to put it on the screen.
Show it up. And also, shout out to Bianca, who made this project, and the rest of the customer and client and design and creative team, because none of these things, it takes Superside is an army of people, and nothing's done in a vacuum. We need to know what the client wants and have a good relationship with them and all the wonderful things that come alongside it. But Bianca she's probably if she's not the best, she's the top 3 of the company in terms of being incredible. And the reason she's incredible is, firstly, she is an amazing art director that can really try and capture design intent and understand how something can translate. She's also a wonderful creative director as well, but visually, she's incredibly strong. Conceptually, she's incredibly strong. And the reason that these kinds of projects, these stylized kinds of projects, have been relatively successful, we do a lot of this kind of stuff, is if you kind of think of the comparison, and I'll try and unpack the comparison so it makes sense. How do we measure this? Number one. And why do we measure it in this way? And thirdly, what benefit is this kind of workflow to the customer? So 90% of hours design hours saved. So how we know that is, firstly, Superside is an incredibly data-driven company. So everything that we do goes through one place. So we have Superspace, where our customers interact with us. They brief through it. We staff through it. We scope the projects through it. The customers approve the estimates through there. They review the work through there. So nose to tail of the customer journey, we know where we are with our customers at all times. So that's a bit of a superpower as well. So we're not taking like a Gmail doc and a Word doc as a brief, and then just sending it like via WhatsApp to a designer, and they come back like everything is captured. Secondly, everything is productized, relatively productized at Superside. So we have like a productized creative offering. And the reason for that is to try and reduce the friction between when a client wants something to the person that is doing the thing. We try and like compress that time as much as possible. And to do that, we have to have like standards. So we can say, for example, on that particular project, it could be category illustration, product, is a custom illustration, and it's of pretty high complexity. So we know it's of relatively high complexity because it's character design. Character design, not a lot of illustrators are amazing at. So we can like for like say, okay, well, what would we do if we were doing this by hand? And we know that based off a wealth of data. And then apply like a different workflow to it and then compare. So that's how we can kind of be pretty as accurate as we can, because we have a lot of historical data, and then we can see what we're doing at a reasonable scale. The kind of other part of it is that for that particular creative execution, the customer wanted like a pretty heavy diversity of output, is in like a bunch of different styles. So if you look at that again through the lens of how would that be done traditionally, if you were doing that, you would need like multiple illustrators, most likely, to do it within a time frame. Or so doing like 5 different character styles and then like or 5 different characters and then styling them in different ways and then posing them in different ways. The way to do that outside of 3D or illustration, well, it's either 3D or illustration to be able to do something like reliably. So as soon as you start adding those kind of compounding outputs, as in like I want 20 different things, that's probably like that's probably a couple of 100 hours worth of illustration time to get to that point, to get to the level of fidelity. And and the final component, which I'll just say to that, why it's successful, is we weren't necessarily basing it off a pre-existing style as well. So the customer was open to creative exploration. So within the boundaries of their brand, so like tonality, color, like the narrative of what those kind of illustrations were trying to say within the context of what they were trying to use them for, they weren't to the pixel exacting of like it has to reproduce this. So they were open to creative exploration. And like generative AI is really good at that. It's really good at that. So that's why when you get to this like crazy high like for like difference is when you have those components together, that's probably about as high as we can get most of the time. 90% is pretty damn high anyway. But that's kind of down to it's down to those factors, is in like it's down to a customer that wants those particular things in that particular order, wants a lot of them. They want them to be really different. They're not too wedded to the style. They want they want them to be characterful and fun. These are all things that kind of really lean into what is useful and possible. You can go the other direction. Maybe we can unpack that as well, which is like replication and like model training and style training and style transfer. But it's a different thing, and it's a different process, and it's different tooling, and it's different workflow, and it's so this is like amazing mid-journey stuff, basically.
Exactly.
Mid-journey stuff.
Perfect use case for mid-journey, right? Like especially this one, like where you want like high volume illustrations, which is simply not possible in that particular time, especially when the clients request for those diverse set of illustrations, avatars, and things that are needed. Perfect use case for mid-journey. And on that note, I wanted to talk about what are the other best examples that you have seen where it was simply not possible with traditional methods that now with AI, it's possible for you to create, and now you're adding that additional layer of value to your clients.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Difficult to answer to the point of like I never would say nothing was ever really impossible before, but maybe it would have been prohibitive to do.
Yeah.
So, you know, would you have made a kind of cinema level video or movie trailer in a week without any principal photography or any VFX? No. So nothing has like changed in terms of possibilities, but it's changed in terms of like how people can access those possibilities. So it's relatively democratizing to say that you can have like Coca-Cola level quality on like, you know, corner shop budget in some ways, maybe not entirely. No, you know, speaking in generalities, I would say to try and answer your question directly on that one, the possibilities are unlocked by getting good. And that's the thing I've been really, really like bullish on the entire part of this journey. So we focus heavily on efficiency to start off with. And efficiency is really, it's a really honest metric, is in like, can we do these things in this time? And it's kind of like, we'll push against some internal feelings of like, I can't do it. Because you can't, if you back people into a time frame, you're like, you have these three tools to use. And the client will be seeing this. Like, you then start to see how people really behave. And like 99 times out of 100, you see them do amazing things. So like the deadline is such a, it keeps you honest in lots of ways. So that has made people good, right? As soon as people got good, then you start to see then what they can do and where the possibilities are. When it comes to like the real possibilities and the things we're seeing the most interest in possibilities is like, it's a bad product name, but we call it Motion Plus at the moment, which is basically this kind of amalgamation of like multi-tool, multi-modal workflows. And so where you could then say like nose to tail would be, you know, research and understanding of the market and understanding the customer, like, or, you know, like Perplexity and large language models, the synthesized information, and pull together like key insights and pull together really interesting things, you know, unpacking that through kind of pretty targeted agents around like, help me write a script within these areas, or help me write creative ideas in these areas. So you can do a lot with the large language models for ideation, idea forming, market research, synthesization of information, storyboarding mechanics through either Stable Diffusion or through Midjourney again. And then into text to image tools like Runway. Runways are pretty much our video provider of choice at the moment. Runway, Comfy UI, Stable Diffusion video kind of style things. So if you have, I'll pause there a second. Large language models to help with ideas and research and stuff. Image models to help visualize those concepts into something that can be then become key art or key frames of a storyboard. Text to image, no, image to video, sorry, models like Runway to then add motion, small amounts of motion, or actually reasonable amounts of motion, add animation or motion to those keyframes or to those storyboard beats. Things like UDO then to make some background music, and then 11 Labs for some voiceover, and then doing some upscaling and magnifique, and then compositing and everything back in probably After Effects at the end. And a big shout out to Manu and Julio, who are like pioneering those techniques for us internally. That's when you just go from like, this would have taken 7 people 6 weeks to this will take 2 people 1 week, and you get an unbelievable like production value. And that just means like in those areas, when you put those, like, you basically empower creatives with just like, here is a brand new shiny set of tools. Like, you've unlocked these new tools, but you already know like the entire Adobe suite. You've already got like 10 years experience in like, you know, creating animation or like being a 3D modeler, or, you know, those kinds of people who are, they're kind of our kind of people. Then you start to go like into this pretty interesting territory where you're able to tell stories at a speed and at a quality that you have always potentially wanted to, but it's kind of that those memes of like brief client budget, you know, when you have like the big yacht is the client budget brief, and then like the tiny boats the client budget. It's kind of slightly getting to this point then where you're like, we can probably execute on something really within a framework, really, really interesting, make the client really, really happy, where they probably would have had to go through a VFX pipeline before. And VFX pipelines is, you know, is no mean feat. You know, it's a hugely involved process. We can probably output work like quicker than we can do render times, like within traditional 3D workflows. So, you know, that's the democratizing and possibility part of it. Is that's not just single shot prompting into Midjourney. That is like when you start to look at complex interoperable workflows that have a real creative narrative to them. That's when there's like absolute superpowers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of the holy grail of having these custom AI workflows, especially like you mentioned, multimodal workflows as well. But I think we'll probably hear more and more about it. And also like fine tuning your data sets to really, you know, create those visuals more consistently over, you know, for specific project, for specific clients. I mean, that's really the superpower. But even, I mean, I would love to talk about it when we have a little bit of time at the end. I do want to go back to some of the common questions that we keep getting from our audience, and these are usually around the misconceptions, and most of what is also related to what you said quite earlier, like what's the final output. It's about like really pushing the creative boundaries, right? Like delighting your clients, not just about cutting costs. And there's a lot of misconception, and that's what I want to quickly touch upon to see, you know, how we can bust some myths around it. Which is, Philip, you have seen a lot of changes in this creative landscape, and we'd love to understand what's the biggest misconception that you think people have or creative professionals have about AI in the creative domain. What have you been seeing and hearing around that's stopping people from taking those next steps, or even other creative agencies or your clients?
Well, okay, so the biggest misconception that it's replacing human creativity. You know, I've seen no signal that kind of could demonstrably say that that's true. And the reason for that, so I would say this within the realms of my world. I don't know anything else at the moment. But I mean, Superside is a very much mission-based company, and you know, the mission is not to replace humans with agents. The mission is to kind of like democratize and empower remote work around the world and to be the best creative company. I've hired a bunch of people to fulfill the mission when it comes to generative AI plus Superside. We are in the process of training every single person at Superside to come along on the journey. It has not been a reduction in headcount. So, and I can't see any world that it becomes a reduction in headcount, like within the current, you know, schema of things, because of how much more value we can provide to the customers. So if we're super customer centric on this thing, is in like, are we delighting the clients? Like if we can turn around something that makes them super happy in 24 days, 24 hours, 24 minutes, 24 seconds, doesn't make a difference to me. Like I would just want them to be really, really happy with the outcome. So I've seen that misconception of like, we are basically training our replacements.
Yeah.
Number one, I just think it's bullshit. Sorry to swear, but like, it's just not the case. And then on that in itself is the other misconception is that it's easy, right? So it's super easy for like, you know, mid-manager, like in, you know, some department in some company to prompt DALL-E within ChatGPT to get like a subpar, less than 50% result of anything that would be barely usable. I can't keep up with my team. Like, I am definitely one of the worst now in terms of doing it. I was, for a short window of time, like one of the better ones, and now, you know, can't really compete, mainly because they're just doing way more work than I am in terms of working on customer work. And it's not easy. So it's not easy to do, number one. It is really not easy to perfect.
Yeah.
And also, there's, you know, this may be contentious. There's a little bit of a, this will be contentious. I think people have a misconception that everyone's creative. And, you know, I just don't, like, personally, I've just never seen that to be true. Like, I think everyone has the ability to express themselves. I fully agree with that. But, you know, design, savviness, art direction, like a critical eye, like taste, man, most people don't have taste at all. It's really, so, you know, I think the great designers, the great creatives are less than 20% of the population, most likely, you know, and they will be the ones, the people that are wonderfully creative and it pours out of them, and they will be the ones that will get the gains here, because they you know, now are amazing. Art director can also be a wonderful copywriter because they still have the same taste and they still have the same insight and the same point of view. So those two things is in, like, it's coming for us. It's coming for our industry if we don't prepare for it and adopt it. We have to be conscious of these things. Yeah. But, you know, we employ a huge amount of creatives. Like, I am charged with, like, very much looking after them with these areas, and, like, our C-suite, our customers, no one is demanding less people. Like, no one. Everyone is demanding, like, that we keep doing things that clients want to buy from us. Those two, I would say, are just, like, unfounded from my vantage point. And I only know from my vantage point. The other biggest blocker, though, is just the uncertainty around legal. And I don't really necessarily have all the answers to the blockers around uncertainty around legal. So, you know, there's a spectrum of how risk tolerant your business is, how forward thinking and how much you want to lean into the unknown, how much you want to be on a leading edge before precedence is struck. And how, you know, like, the big questions of, like, how things will play out in terms of the data sets that were used to create the main models, and then whatever's the upshot of all of that is, like, yet to be seen. It's really awesome to see, like, the kind of, like, companies like Adobe and Bria and, like, kind of people that are having a kind of creator-friendly approach to licensed data sets. Still wouldn't necessarily say they get it 100% right, because there's a lot of kind of, you know, Adobe has, you know, the new basically style reference added into, you know, Photoshop beta yesterday. You could definitely be adding in copyrighted material into your visual prompt, and I'm not sure how they're going to mitigate that. So, you know, the answer, you have to kind of go back to first principles there, is in terms of, like, what's the benefit for your company and why you're doing it. And the final part of that, I just want to just kind of, like, that's all a bit negative. The other part of it is, like, copyright just in general for the material produced. And frankly, copyright is important. Like, it is one of the foundational things that makes the internet work. It's one of the foundational things that makes the creative industry work. We do, like, you know, for example, huge volumes of, like, quite short-lived projects, you know, an email campaign or a digital ads campaign that runs for 7 days. I think we have to have, like, honest conversations about what copyright is for and why it would be needed is anyone going to, if anyone copies your ad, which people do all the time, are you going to care? Are you going to actually like enforce that copyright? So there's just kinds of, loads of open questions. And the way to have those open questions, in my opinion, are to speak about them openly. Like, I'm in charge of this at the business. We have a great legal team who are really, really, really engaged with the process.
Yeah.
We, are always on the side of our customers, but we don't have all the answers. So where we don't have the answers, we don't pretend that we have the answers. And that's like, the way that we approach it.
Right. No, wonderful. And to add to that, I mean, this is exactly the same experience we've been having as part of our training programs as well. Because a lot of people have the misconception that, hey, it's just about, it's going to get things done super fast. You just type a prompt and you're going to get what you want. Yes, it's going to get what you want, something very beautiful, if you do not have a specific end goal. But when you just add a layer of, let's say, a simple assignment where you want this particular thing to look like this, with this particular, brand messaging, it gets a whole lot more complex. And then in the end, it's all about, curation of your inputs and outputs. And you really realize how much of human creativity and human work is actually going into it to get to that final result. So that's a huge misconception that you just, AI is just going to, if you just tell it what to do, it's going to do it for you. It's not how it works. There's a whole lot of work involved. And I did see that, Philip, from your article, that you actually scaled the size of your team to 10 times just within like 3 to 4 months, even after adopting AI. So that's a wonderful point there, right there, that you need to adopt, but then you also need the right people, to train them and to get them to the right level so that you can adopt the right way and implement them in your creative process. So yeah, that actually brings me to the next question, Philip, which is, at the scale that you're operating, how do you really strike the balance of efficiency versus maintaining that authentic creative spirit of the team members, or the human creativity or the human touch to that final work, right? Because of course, as you're driving the team and the business, you're looking up to the business metrics, which is the ROI and the efficiency, but you need to make sure there is enough of human creativity, and you need to make sure your team, your employees are feeling that as well. So how do you really strike this balance in the end?
These are really good questions. Like, luckily, like that's actually just like not the problem. And the reason why, firstly, we have like kind of excellence functions within Superside. So creative excellence, and Annika, who runs creative excellence, like the craft of what we do is incredibly important, and very much held in the highest regard. Also, I mean, you've been training creatives, right? They're pretty opinionated and passionate about their work. And so I sometimes have to kind of counterbalance perfectionism a little bit to get people to move in a different direction. So it's not really necessarily a problem for us to say, like, no one wants to do a bad job, and no one wants to feel unhappy with the thing that they're making, especially if this is your profession. So it's kind of not necessarily that much of an issue to do that, because we're so not in that space where we're like, we've never sent anything raw out of any image, nothing, 0 times, 0 projects. It's been like the thing that's come out from any of the image generators or any of the large language models or any of the video things, and we have gone, there you go, that's the thing, once. And I don't think it probably will happen for quite a long time. And yeah, so the other part, like, there's loads of other kind of quality metrics we could go into. There's kind of the CSATs and the NPSs of the customers, and there's just kind of creative quality, like feedback that we kind of get through different mechanisms.
Right.
The main one for me is like, did the client pay and did the client publish it? Because if the client paid for it, that's a wonderful sign that they're happy. And if they've put it out there into the world, that's a wonderful sign like the business is relatively happy with it. And it's not like these things are like huge projects all the time, but if it manifests in the real world, or in the digital world, or the, you know, if it's left our ecosystem and it's out there in public, again, that's a pretty big sign of approval to say, well, you know, it's like for like, on par with what their expectations are. And our customers, you know, over 50% are like enterprise, and, you know, kind of the other 50% is mid-market and startups. You know, they don't have low standards. Like, our customers are like, you know, like Meta and Figma and like big design companies and like big brands, but not just big brands, big standards. Like, I saw, probably can't talk about it too publicly, but like a really big tech company sent through a brief to us a few months ago.
Yep.
And their brief was like more detailed around like color theory and visual hierarchy than most people's brand guidelines are. Like, they had like a 32-page design brief that was like to the nth degree of like how they want it to, you know, that's more comprehensive than most people's entire brand. And this was just for one project. So, you know, they just don't, standards are like just non-negotiable. We have to.
Right.
Clients, you know, we just have to. So, and that comes with, and I would say that should be the thing that most people should take in their work. If you're downgrading your standards for speed, then you're not in it for the right reasons, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You can try and use speed as a barometer of different success metrics, but you can't dip below the quality standards, in my opinion. I wouldn't tolerate it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's super nice to hear. Amazing. So at this point, I would love to see if anybody has any interesting questions in the comments. Where exactly is the comments tab? Okay.
We do have comments, Sachi, and this is super interesting discussion. If I may use my position and ask the first question, I would be super honored. So Phil had mentioned that the possibilities are unlocked by being good. Let's talk about creative teams that want to be good, that want to focus on quality, but they feel fear, resistance. They are passionate about their traditional workflow because they are recognized for this. So my question is, if leaders are ready to take this risk to lead and implement generative AI in their production, how they should foster a culture of Gen AI adoption in their workplace and motivate their creative team?
Amazing question. There's people that are probably like, I feel, even though I've done it, I kind of feel like super unqualified to answer it sometimes. Because I have like the only methodology I know.
Maybe that's a good one.
So maybe it's a good one. So the only methodology I know is like, you know, as a creative technologist, most of my career, I kind of have like a mantra of like prototypes, not presentations. As in, like, I do not care about like how someone thinks it should be. I care about like what it is, and I also just have nearly kind of like this this well of imposter syndrome that kind of wakes me up in the morning that I can only counterbalance by trying. So like I literally have time in the morning before my kids wake up, like that I will like absorb what's going on there in the world, and I will probably spend between 1 or 2 hours like trying out something new. And that, so if I have something that, say for example, like, you know, CEO of the company wants a thing made, or wants something, I don't know, wants something from me, I will use like a new tool to do the thing that he's asking of me.
Right.
And sometimes that gets me in trouble because it's like, just do the thing normally. But like, you know, it's meant that I've probably like tested well over 100 tools and workflows in the last, you know, 6 months. So that kind of, so unpacking that to creative teams and to leaders and teams is like, play, get in there and play. There is absolutely no replacing trying. You've got to have a high tolerance for bad products. And you've got to have, like, we've all been very used to like relatively good products. Like, I adore Figma, adore it. It is like the holy grail for me of like the kind of design community and a company like in simpatico. But I'm do loads of work in Discord. Like, I do not like Discord. Kind of so have a high tolerance for pain and for bad products, because there's just loads of them. Dynamically trading tools and not being too kind of like caring too deeply about which tool you're using for which thing, is in like, maybe have a suite of like 5 things that you use. Right. And like take one out and put one in, and take one out and put one in, and like over time, it's kind of like capitalism in some ways. Like, it will just rise to the top, the one you use the most, but don't stop using the old ones. So that kind of culture, you can really permeate down into people, like, as in like, give them time to do those things, let them have the time to do those things. The final part, the most successful part, is like, and this is what I am, and I will continue to be for every team that I work with, and I work for my teams, is like, provide the biggest safety net that you possibly can. So like, I am, you know, even though we've got a wonderful leadership team at the business, like, I am the shield, right? Customer project goes wrong, like, I'm the one that will stand up in front of them and be like, we did it, I did it, don't worry, like, we will sort it out. Like, you know, we've completely screwed up on hours, like, I'll figure it out. Or, you know, give as much of a safety net as possible,
right?
Because no one's gonna like want to take a leap if they're feeling like insecure about that kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if they're feeling insecure about their job, they're not going to want to like push the boundaries. So give them security, give them safety net, give them space, and give them objectives. Really, is in like, if I'm going to give you those things, then come back and do some stuff. Show me some stuff. Show me what you've got. And like, again, that, especially if you work, like, I'm fortunate, I work with highly creative people. I kind of sometimes have to temper them, like, please, can it not be 50 tools this week? Can we just focus on 5? Like, yeah, that's I again have the opposite side of the problem, but those are the things that have worked within the kind of realms that I know about.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. This is insightful for me when you said, I work for my team. So creative and environment, not only for experimentation, but also for the safety. If something is going wrong, I will give you a hand. This is very powerful. Thank you so much. I hope that inspires a lot of creative leaders who are joining us today. At some point of time, we had over 120 people joining us. So thank you, everyone, for your time. We do have some questions in the chat, and I will just try to show them on our screen. Okay, so this is the first one from Eric. How do you figure out how much to charge a client? I believe that this is the pain point that comes rounds. So please share your advice on
that. Man, the hardest question in creative land. Like, how do you know what? So firstly, I'll bracket that question down to work within generative AI and creativity, rather than the entirety of like pricing logic and supply and demand. I would say what we have taken a very aggressive approach to the value capture goes to the customer. Now, that will probably, we will maintain that, mainly because we have a business model that can support that.
Yeah.
So value-based pricing is probably an interesting area here. So maybe it will become the death of the hourly rate, which maybe is not a bad thing for creativity. So pricing based off value, but that comes with like an honesty around value as well. So some things are just inherently a bit less value, a bit more commoditized than they were. So you've got to be like kind of truthful with yourself about what is more of a creative commodity than it used to be.
Yep.
But then also on the other side is in like, what is, your expertise around these things? Maybe I would say like the stock in my team is like doubled, in the last year. So that's an interesting thing as well, is in like their skill set's more valuable and what they can do for the clients is more valuable. So those two things are like in sync. The final thing I'll try and say, Eric, to like directly answer your question is to not underprice anything. And by that, I mean, is in like, if you are like, say, for example, the inference cost is 10 cents for an image, for example, or whatever.
Yeah.
And you are going to then do I don't know, 40% markup on it or something. I don't know. We don't price this way.
Yeah.
The price is so low that I don't know if anyone will ever value it, right? If you go down to that level of pricing. So, why do people like price upwards anyway? Is to create value, and creativity is subjective. So how someone feels about the output and how much they want to pay for it, like those things are really connected.
Yeah.
So if you are always going to be the budget brand, then you will probably command the budget pricing. I think there is incredible room for expertise and for outcomes. And I would say value-based pricing is probably the thing that can capture that the most richly compared to input output or time and material, which I think will probably lose more so as things go on, as things get a little bit more commoditized.
Yeah, absolutely. Just
based on that, just let me, Sachin, ask one more question based on this. You mentioned that the value is also depending on the skills that you're putting into your creative work. I was just curious to ask, with all of these AI tools, when everything is democratized, what do you think about the skill of collaboration? What is the value behind that skill?
So collaboration, creative collaboration, or collaboration in general. Okay. So this is the kind of thing this is the thing I am probably the most passionate about. So I have had a weird career, and I studied music at university, and then like went on to like entirely not use that, apart from and found out I was way more technical than I was good at playing music. But what studying music and doing music for most of my teens and stuff taught me was like unspoken creative collaboration is this crazy thing. So like, there's a group of friends that I've played with since I was like 11 years old, played music with. And like, I don't see them that often, but like the moment we get in a room together, we don't really need to talk. We just need to like look at each other and we kind of understand what we're trying to do. And also music's hyper emotional, right? You're trying to like do this thing. And so like sometimes when you're like writing a song, you've got to like be vulnerable, but you've also got to be forceful and you've got to like push your thing forward. It basically taught me this skill of like how do you negotiate like something that is quite nuanced? It's really hard. And I think like Dana, it's like an amazing insight from your point of view, which is the different, like I don't like committee. I don't like creativity doesn't come from committees, and like everyone's ideas are like equal in the same thing, because then you just get this like average thing. You need leadership, you need direction. But the kind of heady mix of like diverse opinions and thoughtfulness and like just things coming from different directions. Like creativity is all about that, because it is this thing of like manifestation, but based off your references and your inspiration. And when you like compound that between like 7 people, the interconnections between all of those, like that's like a really, really interesting web. So facilitating that well, and making people feel agency within a creative process, knowing where to step in, where to step back, where to push, where to like, it's hard. I'm probably not even that good at it, but I care about it a lot. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. We have super solid press or comment here.
Oh, okay.
Sachin, I interrupted you, so feel free to ask your question now. You're muted.
I just wanted to get back on that pricing question, which I think I totally agree with what Philip was saying. And I think if it's high time, and this is the right time to actually change the pricing model to the value-based pricing, because otherwise it's simply going to be super difficult if you're going to go back to the same thing that have you like pricing per hour. And to make it even more compelling, it's all about how you can differentiate your work and how you can further niche down, and always price higher than what you would charge right now. So please do not undercut your pricing. That's a very bad strategy, and you're going to lose out on the long term. So that's my 2 cents on it. But yeah, I did have like one super important question, which is for any creative professional or designers which are starting to try out or experiment with these tools. How should they approach staying ahead when everything is changing so fast right now? Like you said, you have, and I do this myself. Like every day I spend like 2 hours, block my calendar that I can explore and experiment. But when creative professionals are juggling with so much of time, like so much of commitment towards delivering projects, how does one keep up with everything changing so fast, and what should they really be focused on?
Yeah, I mean,
I feel empathy. We need another hour for this question.
Yeah, I've never experienced anything like it.
Right.
Like, I mean, you guys must have the same thing. I've been like, we run a bunch of trainings and like internally, and the amount of time I've like got ready to like go and do a workshop with the team. I'm like, oh, Midjourney have just released character references, and now this is just easy. So like, what's the point? Like, what's the point in putting together something for 2 weeks? And then also just like, all the volume of stuff. I'm not sure if I add to the problem or the solution here, because like I am like a voracious like Slack poster of like, I found a thing, and probably I make it worse for everyone.
Yeah.
Curating a good news diet is good. I'm not a big Twitter guy anymore. I actually really love LinkedIn now. I actually think it's got to a good place, and I find the most useful kind of things from there. The kind of practicality of it. When it comes, I would say the most transferable skills still is prompting to a degree of like, can you get something that you want out of a language model, and can you get something that you want out of a image model without all of the extraneous factors of like the kind of sref, like dash sref within Midjourney. A little bit of a cheat. It's not a cheat. Like back in my day, we didn't have to, we couldn't use sref. But knowing how to do things without the kind of superpower ones, like knowing the fundamentals, I would say is really important. The knowing how to like articulate English language is an incredibly expressive language, right? And it's where a lot of things are based around the English language. So I would say, coming back to those pure fundamentals, can you get these things to behave in the way that you want them to? I don't think that's going to go away for a while, even though there's going to be more UI built on top of everything, and like it's probably going to be like this convergence, and you can go into things like Comfort UI and do like big node editors and like write your own scripts and do all that stuff and do the fundamentals of prompting, I still don't think, especially come back to large language models, I just still don't think people even know how they truly behave in all aspects. I think it's untapped still. And if I was going to follow the money, all the money's going into LLMs still, everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably 98% of the funding is going into large language models. Maybe, it's just so much. So, language is super important, and it will most likely compile and compound. The effort there will probably be more useful for longer. Learning some like super niche UI, don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Things change so fast on the UI front. Awesome. That was amazing. Thanks, Phillip.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much for sharing. I do agree that fundamentals are important right now, and there are so many beginners that are facing the challenge of understanding where to start and how to get along with AI. We are building training programs in ALM and Academy, and I will be sharing in the comments the link if you're just curious about AI trainings and how to get more advanced. We will happily schedule a call with you, so feel free to just press the button and learn more about our AI trainings and reach out to us. Make sure to follow Phil on LinkedIn and learn from him. He is sharing a lot of insights and he has fabulous blogs. So feel free to connect with us as well. Thank you so much for your time. And it was super insightful session today. Thank you so much, Phil.
Pleasure. Thank you guys for having me. I'll happily do this anytime. It's and I actually kind of want to ask you questions next time because I've got a bunch of questions for you. So let's try and do this again at some point.
Sure. Pleasure to connect anytime. But yeah, it was a wonderful session, Phillip. Thank you so much again. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining the call as well. I hope I do see some comments coming in, but I hope with the range of questions that we covered, probably some of them might have been something that you have been struggling with. So I'm super happy you all joined, and yeah, thank you and have a nice rest of the day. Goodbye, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.